Have you ever said to yourself, I'm tired of being broke? And then you check your bank statement and 3 months later you find the same exact thing happening? Have you ever told yourself you're tired of your job, but you find yourself still walking through them same doors every Monday morning? Have you ever told yourself you're tired of not reaching your potential, but you keep scrolling through social media, hanging out with the same people, and making the same excuses? Well, here's the uncomfortable truth: being tired changes nothing. And I discovered something that would change my life forever, that there's a massive difference between being tired of your circumstances and being sick of them. And that difference is a dividing line between those who stay stuck and those who create extraordinary lives. And today I'm going to show you something exactly why being tired keeps you trapped, while getting sick of your situation is the only way that's going to create real, life lasting change. And I'll prove it to you with my own journey from poverty to prosperity. But first, let's talk about being tired. When you're physically tired, what happens? You probably lay down, you probably rest, you probably take a nap, you go to bed, right? You sleep. And sometimes you wake up refreshed, ready to go, but other times you wake up and you feel like you never even fell asleep. So you hit the snooze button, you drag yourself throughout the day, and then nighttime rolls around and you're still tired. So what do? You go back to sleep. See, the same thing happens with life circumstances. When you're tired of your situation, you complain about it. You talk about how much you dislike it, and you might even daydream about changing it. You think, man, I can't wait until my life is like this. I can't wait till I hit the lottery, right? Those things always get me because you talk about it so much, but yet you're not willing to change anything. See, you talk about how much you dislike your life now and you daydream about it, but then you settle back into the same patterns, the same habits, and the same mindset that created your current reality. See, when you're tired, you create a cycle. Create a cycle of being drained by your circumstances, by you complaining or fantasizing about something being different. You stay in your comfort zone and nothing changes. And you feel even more drained, and it's exhausting. And it's definitely not going to transform anything in your current reality. And I would know because I lived in this cycle for years. See, I grew up in a small town called Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and it's really bad, really poverty stricken. Nothing but crime, nothing but drugs. And the richest people that usually in the town are usually doctors. When I say rich, I mean like legally rich, right? That's real poverty, right? And where I grew up, sometimes we didn't have hot water. I had to go to my grandmother's house to get a shower. And in the wintertime, we'd crack the oven door to get the heat, right? And when we think about, wealth, or not even wealth, because wealth's not really our vocabulary then, but when we think about making money, we think about being a doctor, sports, or selling drugs. And for most of us, where I come from, college is not in the picture. And I can tell you, not everybody's an athlete. In fact, I got kicked off my varsity football team in ninth grade for bringing weed to training camp. So you can kind of paint the picture of where I was going. And for years, I was tired of being broke. I was tired of, of this living in stress. I was tired of shame. I was tired of limitations. And I would look at my situation and think, I'm so tired of living like this. I'd really feel like that. But here's what got me more tired was that I was living the same reality every day. And I wasn't willing to change it. At 13 years old, I was selling drugs to eat the food I wanted, ordering Domino's and Pizza Hut, and eating this gas station called Sheets, right? And I'm drinking alcohol and smoking as much weed as I want. And I'm hanging out with the same friends who either broke or selling drugs too. I'm listening to the same music that reinforced my mindset at that time. Cheap Keef and trap music, all this stuff was starting to come out, just reinforcing me into the streets, reinforcing me into this life. And no matter what, I was always wondering why my life wasn't changing. I was trapped in a cycle of exhaustion without transforming anything, knowing no matter how much money I made in the streets, in reality, I was still broke because I could lose it in a day if I got caught, and I'd lose my life if I got killed. But then something happened. And I remember the exact moment. I was 16 years old, sitting in my room, which was actually an attic that I shared with two other guys, which was my mom's boyfriend's sons. One of them, rest in peace, he had passed away from drug overdose, but I'm up there sitting there and I find out that I'm about to have my second child. At 16 years old, having two kids, can you imagine that feeling you had? I had this gut wrench in my stomach that something's got to change. I can't keep living my life like this one more day at a time. I can't. But I wasn't tired anymore. I was sick. Sick of who I become, sick of the excuses I made, sick of blaming everybody else, sick of waiting for circumstances to change when I wasn't changing. And that sickness, it became the turning point for everything that followed next. Think about what happens to you when you get physically sick. Do you just complain about it and go in your regular routine? No, you take action. You might go to the doctor, get some medicine, change your diet, rest differently, maybe get some more sleep, make some lifestyle adjustments, right? When you're sick, you don't accept it. You actively work to get well. So getting sick that actually disrupts your normal patterns and it forces you to change. And the same is true for life transformation. When you truly get sick of your circumstances, not just tired, but you're sick to your core, you'll do whatever it takes to change. You'll evaluate what makes you sick. You'll cut out the toxic elements. You'll seek new information and new guidance, and you'll implement different habits. And you're going to monitor yourself on your way to wellness. Excuse me. And let me be clear. I'm not talking about you hating yourself because of your circumstances. Because self-hatred is not productive. I'm talking about becoming so dissatisfied with your current reality that maintaining it becomes more painful than changing it. And when you're tired, change feels like work. But when you're sick, change feels like survival. And here's the hardest truth that I had to face when I got sick of my circumstances. The world wasn't my problem. The government wasn't to blame. The economy wasn't my issue. My upbringing wasn't my issue, even though it was challenging, even though I grew up in poverty, even though I grew up in a broken household, even though my dad was sold drugs and was on drugs, even though my mom worked a lot, even though that she would go out with her friends whenever I was younger, even though my sister was older than me, even though all I knew was this, all I knew was that, that wasn't the reason why I was broken. The only person on my list to blame was me. And that's a difficult pill to swallow, isn't it? But it's also the most empowering realization you can have. Because if you're the problem, you're also the solution. And when I got sick of poverty, sick of hustling and getting nowhere, I took a radical responsibility. I changed my thinking first. I examined every belief I had about money, success, and my own capabilities. And I realized that many of them were inherited, not chosen. I evaluated my social circle. I had to ask, were my friends elevating me or keeping me comfortable in mediocrity? See, some relationships have to change. And that don't mean that they're bad people. That just means that you need to grow. And sometimes they get to grow with you. Other times you gap them. But that's okay too. Because you still love them. You still got love for them. You still pray for them. You still wish the best for them. But they ain't changing. You don't want them to pull you down. And the next thing you got to do is what I did is I changed my inputs. I changed the music I was listening to. So no more Chief Keef, no more trap music. I started reading books I've never read because I've never read a book till I was a senior in high school, and that was actually The Tony Story by Meek Mill. If you don't know that book, it's about a guy that sold drugs and got set up by a girl, and it wasn't anything that I could ever learn from because it was actual reality around me, right? The podcasts I never watched before, I started watching podcasts, and I started doing everything in my power to reinforce my new direction. I reconstructed my environment. I joined the military to have a new living space, to change my routines. At 18 years old, I decided to make that change to eliminate any distractions that kept me in old patterns. I forced myself to change. Now, I'm not saying you have to join the service, but for me at 18, it was my only way that I knew out. And after changing my ways, I found myself mentally changed, but still physically, financially broke. The military didn't change my finances, but it did change my mentality. So after my time in the military, I sought mentorship. That mentorship, because I was broke, ended up being through YouTube, audiobooks, Jim Rohn, Bob Proctor, but most of all, God. I wanted to learn directly from them instead of theorizing about success. I watched every old video on YouTube. I started reading all of the books and found myself seeking the kingdom of God. And none of this would have happened to me if I would have had just remained tired. I needed to get sick. I needed to get sick enough to make uncomfortable choices. I needed to get sick enough to face the hard truth. I needed to get sick enough in order to make a change. But how do you know if you're just tired of your circumstances rather than truly being sick? Well, here are some signs. You complain about your situation, but your actions don't align with your desires. You blame everything around you for your actual circumstances instead of yourself. And you know what you should do, but you don't. You make a temporary change that just does not last. And you find comfort from familiarity with your problems. You're more committed to being comfortable than growing. And if you recognize yourself in these patterns, you're probably still in the tired phase, and that's okay because awareness is your first step. But understand that being tired alone is not going to create your transformation. So, how do you move from being sick or from tired to being sick? How do you reach that tipping point where change becomes non negotiable? First, get radically honest with yourself. Look at where you are and ask yourself, is this where I want to be in 5 to 10 years? Visualize the consequences of staying the same. And second, Take full ownership. Create a blame list with only one name on it. And that name on there should be yours. Even if other people contributed to your circumstances, your response is your responsibility. And the third is find your physical reaction, right? Real transformation often starts with a crazy feeling, like that knot in my stomach, right? Or that tension in your chest, and that moment that you physically cannot tolerate your reality anymore. The fourth thing you need to do is raise your standards immediately. Decide what you are no longer going to accept in your life, no matter what. And these non negotiables become your boundaries for change. And finally, take one significant action today, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, and not when your circumstances are perfect. Today. Because sick people don't wait to get treatment. If you had cancer, you'd want to start chemotherapy today. So why would you not want to change the cancer of your own self, poison your own life? Make the change today. Now, I stand here today on this video with you as someone who has transformed their life, not because I was tired, but because I got sick enough to change. So the question that you'd ask yourself is, are you just tired or are you sick enough to change? Because transformation begins the moment you stop merely being exhausted by your situation and become absolutely unwillingly going to stay the same. You know who you have been and you know who you need to become. So the choice is yours. You can stay tired and stay the same, or you can get sick enough to heal, sick enough to grow, and sick enough to become someone new. And if this video brought you any value, please like, comment, share with your friends, with your family, with somebody you know that can be helped with this video. And as always, stay blessed by the best, and I'll see you on the next video.